Nubook 1. From Then to Now. Part 6. I returned to our campsite, where Jess and Riley had taken a swim. They were just coming out of the water when I arrived. I decided to take a swim, and by the time I got out of the water, it was getting near dusk. All of us were soon sitting by the fire and relaxing after another long day. "You seem rather happy today, Goldie. Is there a reason for that?" asked Jess. "Of course. My horse just gave me some good news," I replied, waiting for their response. They both looked at me and then began to laugh. "That was an Indian joke, right, Goldie?" said Riley. "Oh, sure. All us Indians talk to our horses," I said, and then we all laughed again. I wasn't going to try and convince them. They had the right to believe me or not. The cat had taken off and was prowling in the night. He is a great cat and is a good friend too. He always says funny things to me, and I can tell by the way he hangs around that he likes being with me. It was soon dark, and all of us talked about the men back on the trail and how they had to wait without any horses. We laughed about that one. I kept thinking about how this was finally it for me, and that I could go home and be with my family. I had learned a lot over the years with the army, but now it would become a past life that would soon be forgotten. Eventually, we went to sleep, and I found myself on the beach with my horse, Flying Spirit. He liked to hang around the water's edge and get his feet wet. I liked to walk along the sand, or just sit and stare out over the ocean and watch the reflection of the light. As I was sitting there, I heard a voice. "Hello, Goldie," she said. It was Shiz. She came over and sat next to me on the sand and said, "You are making a good choice by quitting. You have learned enough of the ways of the white man this time around, and there will be better things for you to do. I can tell that it makes you happy, and that's all that matters." Then she put her arm around me and kissed me on the cheek. I listened closely to what she was saying. "I feel good about my choice, because I want to see my parents, but after that I am wondering what I will do. I have been a hunter and scout for so long that I really don't know anything else," I said as I looked at her. She began to laugh, and then put her hand along my arm and said, "You know more than most men. The wisdom you have will bring you into the best possible times of your life. You will see." I was hearing what she was saying, but I couldn't see it for myself. I wanted to do something that had a real purpose, besides just hunting for something and surviving and making a living. You had to do the hunt because you needed to see what you had to get past. Now that it's done, you will meet your new life as it gradually enters your awareness, she said. This woman is very wise, I thought. I felt like a child sitting next to her. What she was saying is so simple. I wanted my life to be the same, but it didn't seem so to me at this time. It is the hardest thing to see ourselves. That is why you consider yourself like you do. Just learn to be and live your life, which you are already doing. You have become a greater person, and you have ways to go to get yourself where you want to be. but you will be there. I will always be around to assist you, because I love you and want to protect you. There will be the hard times, but you will make it. The tests that come your way are because of what you have chosen. Most men choose what comes easy. You have chosen what is almost impossible. You have something to offer that no one else has. I am always here whenever you need me. Remember, for your own well-being, love no matter what happens," she said, as she kissed me on the cheek, then got up and walked down the beach, humming a tune. What an experience, I thought. No matter what, I could never totally reassure myself of what I knew to be what I was to be. There was always a part of myself that I had to drag along and convince. It was soon morning, and I was once again waking up to the dawn. Little Feather came over and licked me on the face, and said, "If you don't find me something to eat right now, I will lick you while you're in the other worlds." I had to laugh at his remark, but I also didn't want to be licked any more, so I gave him some of my beef jerky. As soon as we got our gear together, all of us rode off. After 2 more days in the saddle, we finally came to the fort. It was late afternoon when we arrived. I didn't want to say anything right away about my departure. I would wait until morning. I spent the night in the barracks with the other men after we had reported to the post commander about what had happened. I was tired from the long ride and just wanted to rest. The next morning, when all the men that were to go on the rescue mission and getting ready, I went to the post commander and told him that I was leaving. He tried to talk me out of it, but I stood my ground and said that I had had enough. The cat was with me and gave me a wink when I said that I was done. I had already told my good friends Jess and Riley the night before, because I knew they would be busy in the morning with packing up for the trip back to the sergeant and the men of the troop. They soon realised why I was so happy, because I was free from a job that was now over with. I watched them leave and said goodbye again as they rode out. I decided to hang around for a day or so, just to think about what I might do after seeing my parents again. I went to get some reading material from the little library they had at the general store to see what I could find. The cat said it was a good idea, because I needed to keep myself busy while he would take his naps. As I was browsing through the books, I came across one that was written on the subject of teaching and how to teach others. Then I remembered what Shiz had said about what I needed would come to me. I never really thought about teaching what I already knew so well. Suddenly it seemed like a good idea. I took the book back to the barracks and sat and read for most of the day, while the cat just slept. The author spoke of the fact that, to learn what you already know even better, go out and teach it. I thought about all that I had been through in my life, and soon realised that I did have a lot of experience to share, especially in the area of the true realities that very few people know about. All the realisations that have come from my real connection and making sense of my outer life would be a wonderful gift to so many. I began to look over all the years of experience I did have. Shiz was right. I can do this. I kept reading for a long time, so much so that I dozed off and found myself with Rebazar. He was there, standing and looking right at me, as though he had been waiting for me. "You found the right book. What do you think?" he said, looking at me with that grin of his. "I will give it a try, but I am still wondering how to start," I said, hoping for some good advice. He looked up to the sky, and then looked from one horizon to the other, and then looked back at me. "You can start from wherever you like. There's plenty of room to experiment with," he said, with a great laugh. "Okay," I thought, "that gives me plenty to think about. The sky's the limit." Then I was woken up by several of the post soldiers coming in off guard duty. "Hey, Goldie, we hear you're leaving. We sure will miss you," one of them said. "I will miss you fellows too, but it's time for me to move on," I replied. "We understand. I wish my term were up so I could go home. Good luck to you, Goldie," they said. "Thank you. It's been good knowing you," I said, as they went off to have their supper. I would really miss some of these men, because there were some good ones here. I got up and decided to take a last look around before leaving in the morning. I walked outside and down the boardwalk, and then past some of the little stores that were inside the post. At the general store there were so many things that one could have and own, but I liked to travel light. I really didn't need that much. I was going to miss this place, but I knew it was time for a change, and I was going to go for it. I was a pretty savvy half-breed now, and I felt good about all the things I had been through. The book I read helped me a lot, and I know that after I see my parents and talk with them, I will have a better idea of where to start my new life. The next day came pretty fast, and I was ready to go. While I was getting ready, the cat walked in from his night out. He yawned and said that he was tired. "We are leaving right now," I said, as he looked at me uninterested. "So I have to ride that silly horse again, don't I?" said the cat. I just laughed and walked out while he followed me, as the horse looked over and made a remark. I said my goodbyes to my friends, and then I was on my way. For some reason, as the day went on, the hot sun decided to taper off a bit. It wasn't so hot as usual. I rode at a steady pace, and my horse had told me before we left that he felt good and strong about the journey, and that he was even excited. I had to laugh when he told me that. It was rather lonely out on the open range by myself, but I knew the real guides and my new friend Shiss were with me. The human level of awareness can be a lonely place, if this is the only realm that you are aware of, but I had plenty to consider from all that I had been through. Rebazar Tars had only taken me to a few levels in the other worlds, but I knew there were many more that were even better. I was realizing that the guides wanted me to go through the harder part of life to strengthen myself for what was to come. Rebazar Tars told me that when he was on the earth, that it was always difficult to present the real message to the humans, because of what a hard place this is, and how the awareness of most people is. I can see now that this is what I am learning, to pay attention to everything. Each day is hard for me to be here, but I know that I have to proceed with my purpose until my time is done here. I didn't really mind as long as I have something of a real benefit to do. I knew there would be those who would understand some of the knowledge I would be presenting. The first couple of days of casually riding were very enjoyable, and also stopping each afternoon to camp out. I never saw anyone except for the animals that lived on the land. As I would ride along, there would be an occasional little critter that would come up to me and start telling me about his life out here. The road runners are the funny ones to communicate with. They are always in such a hurry, and they converse the same way. On the third night I was really tired, because during that day we had to climb some hills. On top of one of the plateaus I found a nice area that had some large rock formations and some trees. It was a great spot to camp for the night. I stopped early and set out my gear. I was above the rest of the terrain. It was as though I could touch the sky. As nightfall came, the moon began to rise. It was a perfect night, with all the stars out and the full moon coming into view. The cat took off as usual and vanished into the night. There was something rather fun and mysterious about this night. I could tell there was a change occurring in the air. I felt a difference in something taking place in my real awareness. I began to think about the unseen mysteries and all that I had learned so far from my guides up to this point in my life. With all the experience I have had, and then to realise what to make of it, there never has been a dull moment in my life or a real need for anything. With the real journey I was on, I knew that my life would only get better. Rebazar is a great teacher, and I knew he would always be with me. I thought about Shiss, and how she would fit into my life. I wasn't quite sure how, so I would just have to wait and see. Then I fell asleep, as I was looking up at the stars. I was in a dream somewhere beyond the earth. It was as though I was floating in the sky. I was gently walking on the air, far above the earth. There was a wonderful silence, as I was all alone in a place in life that I did not recognise. It was as though I was suspended in eternity, and had the freedom to separate myself from all the lesser elements. I felt fine and reassured, even though I was alone. It was a friendly loneliness. I knew this was part of the change that was occurring. It is the real change that made no sense to my outer life at times, but did affect it with many gifts from beyond the world of others. I don't know how long I was gone from my body, but when I returned it was morning. As I opened my eyes and looked up at the sky, I could still see the stars as the light of dawn was approaching. I just laid there for a while, and looked up at the sky, and how free it is. I looked around to see if the cat had returned, but he hadn't. I knew that I was about to start my new life, whatever it might be. It was another step into the unknown, and all that it entailed, and I wanted it. I felt a great burden lift from me, now that I had chosen to change directions. I felt free for now. After a while I got up and walked around to see where I was at. After the experience I had during the night, I almost forgot where I was. Something had taken place that gave me a renewed feeling to go on. I thought about the book and the idea of teaching, which I liked. As I was going over some of the details I wanted to pursue, the cat walked up. "Are we ready to ride horsey again?" he said, with his little monotone voice. "It sounds like you are excited to ride again, little buddy," I said, as I laughed at his mannerism. I soon saddled up, and we were on our way. After a few days I was riding into the area where my parents lived. They were both there. Mum saw me first and came running over. As she did, I got off my horse and greeted her with a big hug. "You've come home, son. I saw you in the other side and knew you were coming. You look wonderful," she said as she hugged me again. "And here is Little Feather, Mum. He has grown so big," I said. The cat jumped down and said, "Hello, Mum. Do you have any fish?" She immediately laughed and said sure. Dad had been out collecting wood when he walked up. "Well, young man, it's good to see you. Thanks for letting us know that you were coming," he said as he laughed, and we walked toward the house. It was great to see them after all these years. They had built a small house for themselves, and so did some of their friends. I went inside to see what they had done. "It looks like you are living like the white man, Father," I said jokingly. Both of them laughed, as Dad said, "There are a few things that the whites have done well, and that is they know about building a good place to live." "I am so glad to see that both of you are so well," I said, grabbing them and holding on. "It has been a long 7 years away from you. I have learned a lot, and it is now time for me to bring a new change into my life. Before I left the post, I read a book on teaching, and that's what I've decided to do. I'm not sure how to go about starting, and so I was hoping that you two would give me some advice." "That's wonderful," said Mother. "You will be a great teacher. There is so much that you can share with others. You already know so much, and as you teach others, life will teach you." I could see that Dad was thinking about something. "Well, Dad, what do you think?" I asked. "There are Indians who want to learn about the real worlds, and so there must be white people that want to learn also. I would suggest that you write a book. If you have something to show people, they will pay attention. With a book, just like the one you read, people will listen to you, and it will prove to them that you are a real person. You have many years and even lifetimes of wonderful experiences to share, so you will be busy," he said. "I like the idea, Dad. You are very wise. I will start to write immediately, and I will need a place to do it," I said. We laughed, and then Mum said, "That is why we built this place. It is meant to be that you would come back here to write your new book with us and be a great author." All of us laughed and hugged each other. My parents now had a nice little house with an indoor stove. It was a great place, very simple and well done. They still had the teepee standing, but it was now used to store their other things. I could see the progression of things as time went on. They had lived in the wilderness for a long time, and they knew so much about so many things. Where they were was well away from where most people would consider anything to be, and that's how they wanted their life. They liked the solitude of nature and what it has always taught them. Both my parents had real experiences like I did. They were taught by Rebazar and my grandfather. They told me that he had passed away while I was gone. He was now in the happy hunting grounds, as some of the Indians would refer their heaven to be, the astral worlds. But I know Grandfather went past the limited heavens into the real universes. He also talked about the different levels, and that there were many heavenly grounds to roam about in. He was a wise man who knew the real guides, and would tell all those who would listen to his adventures. I was rather sad that he was gone, and that I was not around to be with him during his passing, but I knew I could visit him in the invisible regions at any time. That evening we sat around the house and talked about the days when I was growing up. My parents were real people who knew the meaning of life and the simplicity that it is. The house they built was just like them, very creative and well done. I liked where they lived as we sat and talked. I could see myself writing my new book here. I thought to myself how amazing my life had been so far, with all the experiences I have gone through, and to finally come to this new moment. I was trying to figure out where to start with my writing. "Mother, where do you think I should start the writings of my book?" I asked. She immediately laughed and continued to do so. I began to laugh too, because she was so beautiful. Then my dad started laughing. When we were through and things calmed down, she said, "At the beginning, of course." I laughed again. She did make sense. The answer was so simple that I couldn't see it myself. "You are wise, Mother," I said. She smiled and said, "Of course I am, Goldie. Life is wise. It is within and all around us, and you will share the bigger parts of what it is with so many, and we will have fun reading it." How could anyone have better parents than these? They were great. They were my best friends, and I was fortunate to know them. "When I was very young, Mother, what did I like to do the most?" I asked. "You liked the things that most children like. But when we took you to the ocean for the first time at the age of 3, you were so excited and elated, especially for such a young child. That was when we met Paul and Mary for the first time along the beach. They had just come in from a fishing trip on their boat with their 2 young daughters. We were visiting your grandfather, who liked to live near the ocean at that time. All of us got to know each other real fast, because it was meant to be. During that time, we told them about the real guides, and they started to have dream visions right away, and were shown some of the other levels by the guides. We stayed with Paul and Mary for about a week, and you and the girls were at the shoreline, playing all day and every day," she said. "Now I know why I love the Pacific Ocean so much. I came into this life wanting to find the ocean again. That is why I was so excited at such a young age. But now I have found the real ocean within myself. All the realizations I have had have come from the real connection to the real ocean, the one that lies beyond the one that I am at in the invisible worlds. You two love the ocean so much, why don't you live there?" I asked. "We will some day be there again, Goldie, but for now this is where we are to be. We are teaching our friends that live around here about the real guides, and when the time is right, we will move from here and go back to the ocean, probably near Paul and Mary. When we met them, we shared some of our experiences together. They caught on to what we were telling them real fast, because they were prepared by the real guides. This is what we were shown. This is where you will start your book with us. But I don't think you will finish it here, son. I can see that things will change for you very soon, and so you will finish your new writing somewhere you will be happy," Mum said. "Wow, this is interesting. I can see that you are right, Mum," I said, and then kissed her.